Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 22nd day of November in the year 2021. This is a regular municipal caucus of the Jersey City Council. You had a 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer is showing 4:06 p.m. In effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city, state, and state authorities, the city of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16th, 2020 until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference with public access. Again, we had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer was showing 4:06 when we started. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon. Not here yet. Okay. Councilperson Robinson. Not here yet. Councilperson Lavarro.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Orderman.
Here.
Okay. We have 7 council members in attendance at 4:06 p.m. In addition to the time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, November 19th, 2021 at 3:35 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and the local newspapers and posted on the city's website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council President, would you like me to take it from the top?
Yes, please, Sean.
Okay, if any council member shows up, either council member Solomon or Robinson, please text me your arrival time and I will mark you present for the record. Alrighty, on to our first reading ordinances. First reading ordinance, item 3.1, City Ordinance 21-076 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, authorizing the execution and delivery of subsidy agreement with the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency to secure the payment of principal of and interest up to $18 million bonds and/or project notes to be issued by said agency in connection with the implementation of a redevelopment project on certain real property located at 68-64 Sip Avenue and 164-68 Sip Avenue. We have with us, council members, we have our bond counsel, Jim Furon is on the call, is on the line. If we have any questions regarding this. Council President.
Jim, go ahead and explain it. I think there was such a confusion last time. It might be good if you just explain exactly what this is.
I'd be happy to do so. Also, I'll point out that Joe Bauman, I think he just made his way into the call, so great.
Joe is there.
He may have additional information after I'm completed. The plan is this. The Hudson County Community College owns 2 buildings in the Journal Square redevelopment area. The college's plan is to build a new building nearby in collaboration with the Hudson County Economic Development Corporation and the Hudson County Improvement Authority. And so they will no longer need these 2 buildings. The Jersey City Redevelopment Agency proposes to acquire these buildings for $16 million, which is lower than their market price, to allow the college to remain there for 3 years while they put together their plan to build their new building. And so after 3 years, the agency will have the building and will be able to sell it off to redevelopment purposes in the Journal Square area. The plan is for the JCRA to issue debt for 2 or 3 years, during which time the JCRA will seek to redevelop the property. But of course, the college will remain in possession for that time frame. And to undertake this, we are drafting this along the same lines as the Pathside and Bayfront projects were structured, which is to say that it would be a JCRA bond issue, and it would be backstopped by the city's credit through means of a subsidy agreement. As in Bayfront, the expectation is that the land will be sold off to a private redeveloper, and that will be the ultimate source of retirement of JCRA's debt. As I said, the expectation is that redevelopment to a private party will not occur for 3 years. The proposed transaction will have a $18 million cap on the dollar amount, and that consists of $16 million for the purchase of the property, an amount for capitalized interest, which is to say you raise the money in the note issue and you don't have to pay for it out of the budget, and then some additional expenses for the JCRA's expenses in marketing the project to potential redevelopers. As with Bayfront, the expectation, as I said, is that the land sale proceeds will be used to pay off the debt. I think I've rambled on enough. Happy to answer any questions.
Anyone?
Council President, it's Councilman Lavaro.
Mhm.
James, thank you for that. There was just one thing I think that was missing, which I think was part of the conversation, was that this was properties intended to expand the affordable housing program for the city. So you likened it to Bayfront, and that's exactly the model that's being contemplated here as it was presented to the city council back in July 14th of this year. The council adopted a resolution 21-539, supporting the purchase and sale agreement between the JCRA and Hudson County Community College for the acquisition of these properties for that purpose, for that specific intent and purpose. So with that in mind, I would just bring people back to that. And I don't know if this ordinance references that original resolution that was authorized by the city council. Can someone inform me if that's the case? I will be honest with you, I didn't read in that great detail to see if I had done that.
The ordinance does not reference the prior resolution. Frankly, I wasn't aware of it when we prepared the ordinance. But I will tell you that this, as any JCRA transaction, requires the findings of the local finance board. And in the application to the local finance board that was filed about a week ago, it does mention that the agency will identify redevelopers to redevelop the area with mixed-use residential, retail, and affordable housing projects. Now, I'm not sure if what you referenced refers to both of the parcels. There are two distinct parcels here. There's 68 to 74 SIP and 164 to 168 SIP. But it is my understanding that the JCRA is aware of affordable housing, one of the uses that is targeted. I know nothing more about the history, though.
I mean, I may be, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way, but it was presented to us in a way that it wasn't just one of the uses, it was the primary use. Again, kind of similar to Bayfront with the 35% commitment, which is a big commitment, and the idea being that it's publicly owned lands, that we'd be able to accomplish that similar affordability requirements for these properties because it's public land. There was not a specific number attached, unlike Bayfront of the 35%, but I think there was the intent was there to suggest that it should be significant affordable housing. I will just point to the language of the resolution itself, and I would ask if it's included within the language of this ordinance. Can I to share my screen to the city clerk?
You can share your screen.
Okay, I'm going to do that right now. So what you have before you is that resolution. from July 14th, and within that resolution, it was amended and approved unanimously by the council with the following conditions put in place. It included the idea that it was affordable housing, but in the ending resolution, it's saying now therefore be resolved that that the council expresses their support for this, provided that the following conditions are adhered to in the redevelopment of the properties. That the two properties in question are used as affordable housing as defined by Chapter 188 of the Jersey City Municipal Code. And then that's items number 1 and 2, which can everyone see that in my screen, in the shared screen?
Yes.
Okay. And then number 3 is the JCRA shall not sell, lease, or otherwise transfer the property without the express consent of the governing body of the city of Jersey City. And so that ultimately that the properties would come back, or when the sale of the property is contemplated to a redeveloper, and we're prepared to take that plunge, that the city council would have be able to essentially give its blessing to the final sale as well, and provide its input in that process. And that was again unanimously adopted by the council. And so my question therefore is to the JCRA and to the administration is, does the ordinance contain language to that effect to address these three, but it's really two requirements as related to the resolution that was adopted by the council in relation to this initiative.
Councilman, it's John Metro. So it does not have that specific verbiage in this ordinance. This is for the bonds and the backing of the bonds and securing the financing for it. I believe, and I defer to Mr. Baumann if he has anything to add, but this language would come into play when there is a potential agreement in place for the development of those projects, or an RFP, or whatever, and whatever way the JCRA is to procure those changes, that they would include that language.
I agree.
Amanda, can you share your screen, please?
I mean, could I get an opinion from our own legal counsel on that? It's a subsidy agreement where the city is agreeing to subsidize and utilize our own resources towards this end. I would think that we would want that condition in there to ensure that, again, and no disrespect intended, but the intention was to have it be an affordable housing. In fact, that's what it was promoted and marketed as earlier this summer when the stories came out about it, that this is going to be, again, an extension, kind of capitalizing on the idea and the model that is Bayfront to utilize public properties. And I think it's a good idea to copy that and to model it and acquire more use more of our public properties to that end. And so I would think that we would want to include that kind of language in such a subsidy agreement to ensure that that happens from the city side, from the city's perspective, that the JCRA is adhering to that when they go out to RFP and to bids, and when they're making applications to local finance board, et cetera, around that, and that that they are also including in that as part of that subsidy agreement, that in fact that it'll come back to us for the sale of that. I mean, that's my opinion, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels. We all did approve it unanimously back on July 14th, and the idea that that the agreement that would underwrite these transactions essentially wouldn't include those stipulations seems like we would be essentially forfeiting our authorities as a council as a result. But what can I say about that? So, can we get maybe our legal counsel to chime in on that?
Councilman, can you share with me the resolution number for the resolution you had on screen earlier? I will review that. And
Sure. It's
I'll let the council.
21-539.
21 dash, I'm sorry.
-539.
Okay, thank you.
So Councilman, I will tell you that, as I said before, I was not aware of this resolution before you raised it to me, and that's not unusual. I'm your outside counsel. I would recommend that if this is a condition that is substantively important to the city, that it be included in the text of the subsidy agreement, because otherwise there could be an argument that the ordinance supersedes the resolution. But I will have to discuss this with the administration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Farron.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, Sean.
Okay. Just for the record, I believe we have Councilperson Solomon. I marked him present at 4:11 PM, so we have 8 council members present at 4:11. All right, with that being said, on to our next first reading ordinance, item 3.2, City Ordinance 21-077, an ordinance amending and replacing Chapter 187, inclusionary zoning of the municipal code, requiring all applicable developments to include a mandatory on-site affordable housing set aside.
Is someone here? I think someone's here from Fair Share Housing.
I believe we have Adam Gordon.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Adam, do you have video?
I do. Can you see me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, that's strange because I can see myself on the screen. There we go. Did it work?
There you go.
That's a little bit shaky. Okay. Can you hear me and see me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. May I proceed, Council President?
Sure. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Council President Waterman and members of the council for inviting me to speak before you today. This has been, as I think you all know, a long road with a lot of effort to get to the point that we are today, in which we have a much improved inclusionary zoning ordinance that is ready for introduction next week. And I see a lot of the people who've gotten us to this point on this call today, and you know, this is Council President, you and Councilman Lavaro really got the ball rolling with the ordinance that you had introduced that you know, had required a 20% set aside initially. There was then the other ordinance that was only really a 5% on site that got struck down, and you know, really I think this is a significant middle ground. That's a big improvement on that ordinance. You know, basically, and I'm sure others will speak about this more. What it requires is tiered. I know based on the requests of you, Council President, and other council members, based on the incomes of the city levels, and it's basically 10% in the relatively lower income parts of the city, 15% in downtown, the waterfront, and a few other higher income parts of the city. And then also it's 20% if there's state funding involved, and also there's a floor in all parts of the city of 15% if the council at its own discretion decides to grant a pilot, and that is a firm number. No buyouts, no waivers, no exceptions, no wiggle room, and that really solves both, I think, the practical and legal problems that were true of the prior ordinance. It has very clear standards to make sure that it benefits a wide range of Jersey City residents, that it goes at a range of different income levels, going down to families that in many cases are going to be making $20,000 to $30,000 a year, and also going up more to moderate income people, and it's all based on local information about income levels in Hudson County. And it also makes sure that we're serving a wide range of needs. We're serving 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. And in a lot of ways, it's a very clear, simple ordinance that is going to produce, I believe, a significant number of units. It applies, you know, not just on a case-by-case basis, but anytime that there's a rezoning, new redevelopment, variance, and applies in the case of obtaining the master plan as well. And so we're really, we appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this to strengthen this ordinance and to get to a place, a middle ground of compromise with the support of the mayor and the many of the people from the administration who are here, and particularly Anissa and Tanya. I really appreciate their leadership on making this happen. And I think we're finally in a place in which we can, going back to that debate that, again, the Council President, you and Councilman LeVar kicked off a couple of years ago, that we're in a place in which we're going to do something significant. And I appreciate the commitment to introduce it and move forward with it next week. And certainly happy if there's anything more that you want me to address, Council President, or anybody else, happy to do so.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Tanya, do you want to add anything before any questions? Because you explained it pretty well.
No, I do want to thank Mr. Gordon, though, for his patience in working with us in this, and for coming on tonight. I know he has other obligations. I can answer any questions, but Mr. Gordon did do a fairly well overview, and I know that we've also spoken about this ordinance offline. So I am here, and so is my colleague, Matt Ward. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions, staff, council?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. Jersey City needs more affordable housing. As we continue to create more affordable housing. At the same time, I don't want, and any of us don't want to scare away developers away. If the requirements are too strict, it will scare developers away, and then we won't have affordable housing. But let's give this a chance and reevaluate this. And I'm saying that maybe within 2 years, we should reevaluate this whole situation and see if it's effective. Also, I'd like to know, and I'd like to list, Tanya, from you, of everybody who was involved in this decision. Were any developers asked to put their input in? Did anybody, who was involved in it? I think it's a good plan. Let's see if it works over the next couple of years. But I'd also like to know who was involved and why a lot of other people weren't involved in this decision.
Okay. All right. Someone else?
Sorry, I do have questions. Hi, Adam. Hi, thank you for that introduction, and Tanya, thank you as well. My first question is just related to the map itself. So the second tier, tier 2, and actually let me just begin with the map and the different tiers. So the census tracts that this is based on the latest census, and is that an annually updated census as the AMIs change on an annual basis?
Matt?
I'm going to chime in on behalf of
I was just about to say
planning.
Matt Ward's on this
Matt,
call. He
right.
can answer that much better.
Yep. So hello, council. I can share my screen if necessary, but in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, you'll find a paragraph there that speaks to the method that was used to create that map. So there are 2 sources that went into the creation of the 2 tiers. So there is the median family income by tract, and that was used from HUD. It's reflective of the Jersey City fair market rent metro area for 2021, and the median family income is $84,700 according to the HUD website, and that was used as a baseline to figure out the breakdowns of essentially what is tier 1, which is everything less than 120% AMI, and then the upper income tracts, which is equal to or greater than 120% of the AMI. And we use the 2019 5-year American Community Survey data, which is the latest data we could get at a tract level to map the 2 together. So that's what you're seeing. It might be too much detail there, but we really wanted to include that paragraph to make sure it was very clear and upfront. And to answer your other question, or that might have been a two-part question, the ordinance is clear that it's going to be evaluated, or city planning's tasked to evaluate it every 5 years. That's not to say that the council could choose to evaluate it earlier, but at the very least, we'll come back to council with a new map and data that will be the latest up-to-date data at that time.
Mhm. All right. Someone else?
Can I speak again, Council President?
Okay. Go ahead, Rolanda. No one else have a question?
Well, I just, and again, I had to step away for a brief moment, but just, you know, are, the upzoning, triggers the same as in the previous ordinance, or has any of that information, have any of those triggers changed?
Triggers have not changed. The one thing that is, I think, different than it was the last time is that it is applicable to all rezonings. Whereas in the last one, there was an exemption for things that had been changed through master plan reexamination. That's not in this one. This one is just a blanket for rezoning. As long as the rezoning results in 5 units or 5,000 square feet more than was permitted previously.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Rolando.
So in coming up with the tiers, the 2 tiers, what went into the thinking of establishing? So tier 2 is essentially 120% or greater of median income. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this interpretation. And then tier 1 is very low, and moderate, or workforce housing type 80 to 120%. The 80 to 120%, why is that not like in part of tier 2 as opposed to within tier 1? Whereas because the under chapter 188, those who are eligible for the housing fall below 80% AMI, as in accordance with UHAC. But so I'm just trying to understand the rationale or the reasoning that went behind establishing those different categories for the different tiers, as opposed to maybe 3 tiers, or including the workforce housing within tier 2 as well.
Thank you for the question, Councilman Navarro. The tiering really came from the direction and goals that Council President was talking about in some of the meetings that we had with Fair Share Housing Center and the administration, as well as some other council people. And when we were mapping the different income groups, we started at many different options. We had 3 tiers at one point. We had, and then we've defaulted now to 2. And these low, moderate, and middle income, as we define them in the ordinance, it seemed most appropriate, looking at the market forces in those areas, to group those together.
One of the things that was changed was and I think that's a good thing, that eliminating the waivers, the exemptions rather. Excuse me one second. Removing the exemptions for the master plan, as Tanya alluded to. So with the master plan amendments or proposed changes coming to completion, can you just share for the record how master plan updates would become adopted, and how the IZO would be applied with any of those kind of proposed master plan updates? For example, as I recall, somewhere around on Municipal Avenue below, west of Bergen Avenue or MLK Drive, I forget exactly what the demarcation line was, along Municipal Avenue, that those commercial automotive area was being rezoned for residential with a maximum height of 5 stories. Can you explain how that master plan amendment would come to fruition, and then how the IZO would apply to that.
So the area that you're referencing is what we call conventional zoning, right? So that's the area that's not in redevelopment. And the law is actually a little clear here, where it talks about really requiring the affordable housing and needing a compensatory benefit, which I'm sure are the words that you've heard frequently. So that what it translates to us is that when we are upzoning, we can't do a mandatory requirement. So we really, honestly, when we get there, need to look at how we're going to do that, and whether or not that's tied to somebody can have a base amount of zoning, and if they want more, then they would trigger the 10% on site. But to do a flat across the board 10% on site or mandatory without the compensatory benefit is not something that we think we can legally do, especially not within conventional zoning. It is something that we're talking about right now and how that looks. It doesn't exempt that area from the 10 or the 15% requirement from wherever it is, but it's how we introduce it into that zone. I know that that is not exactly a very clear answer, but it's something that we have to kind of look to do right now.
I'll just add too that so there's certain areas of the city that the master plan consultant team identified as being a shift from R1 to say the R2D zone. And so it's essentially a shift from 35 units per acre to 70, I believe 75 units per acre, if I remember correctly. And that on a conventional sized lot results in 4 units at 75 units per acre. So this is below the 15 unit exemption or threshold to trigger the IZ. So there's some of those types of nuances that we haven't yet fully studied alongside the IZ, since this was, we've just been focusing on rewriting this and the impact of it in the last couple of months.
Okay.
So then the focus of that in terms of those nuances, your office and the planning board will be the approving authority on all of those things, and then as far as issues of variances, is it the zoning board that is the approving authority on the application of the IZO, or how will that?
So in no instance can it be less than what the tier requires, 10 or 15.
Mhm.
And I think what it means by the approving authority is what board it's going to and who has the jurisdiction. Whereas in the instance of rezoning and redevelopment plan amendments, the council has the jurisdiction. As you know, the planning board is just a recommendation board.
Mhm. Okay.
Council President, so there were amendments done with with Chapter 187 in mind
Mhm.
prior to it being struck down
Mhm.
to redevelopment plans since it was effectuated, which I believe was January 1st of 2021. So how does this ordinance apply to those amended plans that have references to Chapter 187 currently with the current ordinance that's now been struck down by the court?
Well, right now, it's really only the Central Ave redevelopment plan and the Jersey Ave light rail, I believe. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure those are the only two that reference 187. And right now there is no 187, or at least not and what it was, and the inclusionary zoning, there isn't any. So this would be the readoption of 187, and then those redevelopment plans would just refer to this ordinance. It wouldn't refer, I guess my assumption is that you're concerned more about a time of application, time of approval, time of anything. And that doesn't refer here because that ordinance, the original 187 was struck down by the court. So it just doesn't exist in this instance.
Mhm.
I think you brought that question up the other week, and it's a good one, Councilman Navarro. I think I did look at the Jersey Avenue light rail redevelopment plan, and the only problem that I saw was there was a open space bonus where we actually used the payment in lieu map from the prior IZ ordinance as the new contribution amount. So we might have to fix that or address that. But in the meantime, if it's not clear, I think that that's a severable clause in that redevelopment plan, since there is a severability clause in there, or we'll have to talk to our city law department on what the ramifications are of that map now being kind of non-existent.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Someone else?
I know, in the Affordable Housing Committee that we had, there was a lot of discussion regarding the length of affordability for the units. I realize that it's silent here as to, how long the units are affordable. Does that mean that it's in perpetuity or?
All affordability requirements are regulated through UHAC or Chapter 188. I believe it's 30 years, but this
Minimum.
187 doesn't have anything. I believe there's actually people who know better on this call than I do, but UHAC is not my expertise.
May I address that?
Yes, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. So that's correct. The UHAC is 30 years, but then thereafter continues until affirmatively released by the municipality. And so it's essentially perpetual controls. And certainly there's some cities that have explicitly said that or made longer time periods, but that is UHAC basically requires Jersey City to affirmatively choose to end the affordability, which I'm not sure why anyone would do. Who knows where we'll all be 30 years in the future, but so that and yeah, as Tanya said, that is in the already adopted Chapter 188, which was not part of our legal challenge to the prior ordinance, and really is a pretty solid standard affordable housing ordinance. And one thing I think I'd say about all this is that I think this ordinance is really important because and in response to some of the things Councilman LeVar was asking about, it sets a really important baseline and floor that sets expectations on everybody, and I think that that's really important. I think it's really important for the council to keep, an inclusionary zoning ordinance is really important. It's not the only thing that's important in creating affordable housing, and I think looking at opportunities where you can do more, doing more things like Bayfront, which is absolutely critical. Is also important, and there are lots of things. Certainly this doesn't prevent the council from finding individual areas where it makes sense to have higher requirements, to ask for more in terms of deeper levels of affordability. But what's really important about this ordinance and why we think it's a big step forward is that it sets a baseline that everybody has to start from and applies it equally to everybody. And I think the council can look beyond that when there's specific opportunities as well, and we'd love to work with you to do that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Anyone else?
so if I may, just to follow up on looking at deeper opportunities, this will be my last question. So the ordinance allows for increased affordability with certain tax credits and so forth. And correct me if I'm wrong, so it's in tier 2, 15% to 20% if low income tax credits are applied, as well as 10% to 15% in tier 1. Again, if low income tax credits are in play with that redevelopment project. And then it also says that also applies to tax abatements. And then I'm going to kind of go back to the conversation I had earlier this week with city officials, when you were speaking with the council. And then there was, just for the record, opportunity zone credits do not apply towards this end, towards increased affordability requirements. So if they're in opportunity zones, there would not be an increase in requiring more affordability among the percentage of units. And And then there was a question that, at least on the call I was on at the time, although it seems clear to me in the ordinance that tax abatements would apply. And so this is kind of a two-part question. Number one, I had asked at that time of the meeting if could just get some clarification as to whether it does apply to tax abatements. It seems clear to me in the language, but I think there was some differences of opinion about whether it did apply to tax abatements. And so if we just get on the record whether there'll be deeper requirements and what those requirements are for any sort of tax abatements. And then secondly, as I stated in the call, the idea that if there's going to be a tax abatement, which I'm not opposed to, and actually supportive of, put that on the record, that if there's deeper affordability, provided there's greater affordability requirements expected of the redeveloper, I would encourage, and I don't, I'm assuming at the time that there was no plan for, it was suggesting that there's no plans for a specific tax exemption policy, but I would encourage, similar to the first term or in 2013 through 2017, how there was a policy that the city had with regard to tax abatements, and that be updated to reflect this new inclusionary zoning policy, and to try to provide clarity as to what a tax abatement would apply, just as we would want everyone to get the same rules for inclusionary zoning. We would, in terms of what their requirements would be as far as affordable housing requirements, we would also want the same if they were applying for tax abatements. And if that were to reopen, that program were to reopen here in the city, that there'd be clarity about that so that it's the same rules across the board. If anyone could speak to those two questions.
So as Mr. Gordon said, that this ordinance really establishes a floor. And the only time tax abatement is referenced is within tier 1, which is the 10%. And it says that if a tax abatement is sought, that a minimum of 15% on site would have to be given. So if the city has a policy, city council has a policy of a 20% on site, that definitely doesn't preclude them from requiring that. The only other thing this ordinance talks about is really a state subsidy, which is the EDA funding or NJHMFA. But again, no, we did not mention specifically opportunity zone funding, and that would require a minimum of 20% on site. Again, those are minimums.
So opportunity zones in and of itself require 20%?
No, we do not. Opportunity zones were not listed in this ordinance.
If I may just briefly add to that, I think the 20% tier, which is universal across the whole city, is really focused on state funding, whereas opportunity zones are, well, there are federal tax breaks that it's not covered, at least in the current draft, in state funding. And yeah, I mean the tax abatement piece, I agree with everything that's been said, but just to be clear, I mean it doesn't specifically mandate the council grant a tax abatement in any particular case. So I don't think it sets a new policy for tax abatements, just as if it's granted in that tier 1 that it's 15%.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Matt, Tanya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean.
Okay. Next, item 3.3, City Ordinance 21-078 is an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Administration of Government, Article 11, Department of Public Safety, Sub-Article 2, Division of Fire and Emergency Services of the Jersey City Municipal Code, to define the scope of activities governed by the various fire prevention permit types and to adjust the inspection fees.
Someone here for that or no?
Yeah.
Hello?
Do we have Chris? Chris, are you there? Chris Karen?
Hello?
I believe Mary Watson is on for
Is she on?
using Chris's login.
Oh, okay. Mary, are you there? Mary Watson? In order to be heard, Mary, you have to unmute the mic. Barry? I'm not sure if she can hear us, Bernadette.
I'm calling her right now.
Okay. Just bear with us, council members.
Cool.
You want me to just read the next ordinance?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
Back-
Read the next one.
So, item 3.4, City Ordinance 21-079 is an ordinance amending Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, Section 31, Parking Restrictions for Street Cleaning Purposes, and Section 31.1, Street Cleaning Review Commission of the Jersey City Municipal Code. Any questions?
Sorry.
No
We're talking
questions
about-
on this?
This is the street sweeping?
Yes.
So when does this all, when will this all take effect?
This would take, good evening.
Burning on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. This would take effect the 2nd of January. So the first week of the new calendar year.
Vernon, this is, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman LeBar, you're not done.
No, I'm sorry, what was the date again?
January 2nd?
Are you gonna be ready?
Yes.
Signs are ready?
Not that the signs are ready. As part of this process, we would start restickering the signs during the period in late December where enforcement is ceased for the holiday season. And so we would start during that period. And because of the strategy as far as the new scheduling of the street sweeping, where we're not changing times at any location, we're just eliminating a day. It creates a dynamic where no one would be getting tickets unnecessarily. The worst case scenario is if we have not gotten to a location for signs, folks would possibly try to relocate their vehicles, but even if they didn't, they wouldn't get a ticket. So just as an example, if a particular side of a street previously called for enforcement on Mondays and Thursdays, we are eliminating Mondays from that schedule. So it would be a Thursday restriction. So if they happen to park there on Monday, they're not going to get a ticket. If they move their car, then obviously they wouldn't get a ticket there either.
Okay, Vernon, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One, in regards to the signs, I know you said some of them might not be available right away and we just wouldn't ticket. Are we waiting, I guess, to see how it goes before we change signs permanently? I know there were a few blocks when we were discussing it before that I think Councilman Robinson was mentioning, collect or tend to have more trash than others. Are we immediately just changing signs, or are we feeling it out for a little while to make sure this is the right change for every street?
No, we are going to initiate starting changing signs on December 20th. The notion is that we're not decreasing the manpower at all, right? So we will have folks that are part of our DPW team that would normally be driving trucks that we can give additional attention to areas that are in need of a greater focus. So that's how we plan on doing that. We will see how it goes. I mean, obviously this is, while it is not a pilot program, it is something that we should be prepared to make changes as need be going forward.
Okay, and the second question is, how are we notifying the residents?
Yeah, I mean, what we'll be doing is obviously through the local media as well as all the social media platforms we typically do to communicate to the public. It is the timing as far as perhaps we were looking at possibly putting in a notice in the tax bills that has that the timing did not work out, and that you didn't want to notify someone in you know, late July, early August about something that's going to happen in January, and so the next bills are not set to go out until about 8 months from now. So that won't work. The big takeaway from this is that as far as notification is concerned, if any individual doesn't know about it, there's no way that they're going to get penalized by it. So that, as I said, if you don't know about the change, worst case scenario is you're going to relocate your car when you don't have to, right? That's the worst case scenario. So it's not like because we did a change and all of a sudden now it's a different day of the week and now a street cleaning crew is coming through when you're not expecting it. That's not going to happen.
When do the grace period ends?
Grace period? What grace period are we?
Because you're saying they don't have to worry about it, so they can do this a whole year?
No,
and that's what I'm saying. So it has to be a deadline in which the public will know, okay, we'll give you up into, let's say, June to make sure you comply by these changes. Is that in there? That's what I'm talking about, a grace period, because you can't have it a whole year with them saying, I don't know. And anybody could say, I don't know.
No. Council President, thank you. What I was saying was that just using one side of the street, if it's Mondays and Thursdays now, it will be Thursdays only going forward.
Right.
So if you don't know, you won't get a ticket, because the worst case scenario is you're moving your car. So it's never a case where you're going to park someplace where you're not supposed to be and get a ticket. That's not going to happen. So there's no reason to extend a grace, because we're enforcing the new law, which would be Thursday only on that side of the street. The sign might say Monday and Thursdays, but we're only enforcing it on Thursdays. So no need to give you a grace. You're never going to have to run up to municipal court to fight a ticket that you received not out of ignorance. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
So that in the end, out of this whole project, what will happen is our local street cleaning will take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So for the majority of the city, all you have to worry about is Tuesdays on one side of the street, Thursday on the opposite side of the street. There are 5 streets that are unchanged as part of this process. That is Central Avenue, that spans Ward C and D, Martin Luther King Drive, that spans A and F, Ocean Avenue, that spans A and F, Sixth Avenue, that is in C, and West Side Avenue, that is in A, B, and C. But all the other streets would be Tuesday on one side, Thursday on the other.
So Vernon, this is Councilman Navarro. If someone, I know that the change that's going to be made isn't going to alter, it's just going to reduce. I mean, it's not going to change when street sweeping will occur on their street. It'll just reduce and eliminate one of the days. But if someone wants to find out what the day is and the street sign isn't updated, is there going to be public information available at a website or something like that? Which is something that I had put on previously in my campaign to try to change this stuff, was to have this information publicly available as to when street sweeping schedules were. Will that be available publicly at the city's website?
Absolutely. It'll be on the city website. As I said, it'll be distributed through social media as well, and we'll be working with local media to get the word out as well.
So my suggestion towards that end is that the other way you can notify people, and it's a nice way of notifying them, is that if you're on a day when they were supposed to get a ticket, perhaps, and now they're not because the schedule has changed. And unless you've already figured out redeployment of the personnel, perhaps just sending them out to issue a little notice that says, hey, you're not getting a ticket today because we changed the schedules in your neighborhood. And instead of it being on Monday and Thursday, it's now just Thursday, right? So, and that way they get a pleasant surprise if they didn't get a ticket when they may be running out and scrambling out to their car to try to move their car for that ticket.
Yeah, Councilman LeVar, I'm certainly, I will investigate that further with our graphic designer to pull up something so that can be in place. I know that in the initial month, what we're trying to do is we're trying to redeploy the folks as far as the elimination of Mondays and Fridays towards the effort of getting the signs restickered, right? But I'm certain that that's something that we could try to get accomplished as well.
I have a question. I have a
Go ahead.
question. Did we come up with a plan, like once people start getting used to the fact that they're not going to get tickets and they don't move their vehicles, do you not think that, there's going to be, people just not going to move their vehicles and that area is going to be like filthy? Is there, what are we going to do once that starts happening?
Well, the thought was that the folks, we're gonna take this all in and we're gonna observe what the outcome is from this project and process. But the idea is we're going to be freeing up manpower, so there's a better focus on the target areas where this is a concern, where this becomes a problem. So that's what our outlook is as how we would address this going forward.
Newark Avenue should be done twice a week. It's a Dickinson High School.
What do you mean it should be done?
Bergen, also, I didn't hear you mention Kennedy Boulevard and Bergen Avenue. There's a big chunk of Bergen that's commercial and high traffic. And of course, the Boulevard is incredibly high traffic in addition to all the regional traffic we get. So those are going to stay the same, or those are also changing?
I know that JFK is not changing at all.
Okay.
So that I know that that's the case. I do know that Bergen Avenue is subject to change. Bergen Avenue, as far as this is concerned, yeah, it is. There are two different time zones, but it switches from Tuesday and Friday to just Tuesdays and Mondays into Thursdays, so just Thursdays. Is there an area specifically along Bergen Avenue that you're focusing on? Are you talking about closer to Journal Square?
Closer to Journal Square, where you have the special improvement district. You might want to check in with those businesses there to see if they are comfortable with this change, because I already get a lot of complaints around traffic, or I'm sorry, well, traffic and trash, but trash in that area altogether. And a lot of the business owners will sweep into the sidewalk knowing that the street sweeper is coming, so that you guys might want to reconsider that.
Okay. I'll definitely reach out to those adjacent SIDs, give them greater comment on it.
All right, anyone else?
Councilman LeVar here again. Just going back to the redeployment. One of the things that I originally envisioned was that the redeployment of parking enforcement officers would then be able to focus on kind of zone parking violations and other resident-only parking violations. Is there a plan to utilize this manpower for that that should be freed up manpower that's not doing street sweeping parking enforcement, but to be able to enforce those zone and residential-only parking violations?
I can speak to that, Councilman LeVar. And just was speaking to Director Peretti this afternoon regarding this project, and because we were trying to sort out exactly like how many bodies we were going to be able to have here and there to dedicate to the restickering. And I was asking her, are there folks there? And she specifically was speaking to the fact that there's a host of parking enforcement priorities that have not been high on the priority list, given their short staffing, that she wants to pivot and try to make sure that those parking enforcement issues get greater attention. So that will be the focus of the parking enforcement to address those issues further.
Great.
You said this will take effect January 2nd?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is we're not doing it January 1st. It'll be the first affected days after the new year.
Got it.
And just quickly looking at a calendar,
Okay.
that is January 3rd. That would be the Monday that isn't, that won't be subject to cleaning.
All right. All right. Thank you, Vernon.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you to
Sean.
everyone.
Okay, so we can go back. I believe we have Mary Watson on the line. We can go back to ordinance 21078 regarding the define the scope of the activities governed by various fire preventive permit types and to adjust the inspection fees. Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, council member, Mary, why don't you go over the ordinance a little bit, explain it to the council, and then if they have any questions, they'll ask you. Mary? She was there and
She's
now.
here. I
looks like-
see her, but I don't hear her. She's not speaking. Mary, do you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Could you tell us about the ordinance, please?
I'm sorry?
Could you tell us about the ordinance that's before us?
Yes. I
Okay.
want to apologize for not being able to get on before.
Oh, that's quite all right.
The original ordinance had the permit fees, but they never. Yes, I do. The ordinance, the original ordinance. The
You can finish talking. We can hear you.
Okay, the original ordinance didn't have any permit definitions. However, we decided that it would be best to put the definitions in for the permits, because why would a person want to buy a permit and not know what it was for? So we added those permits into the new ordinance. Okay. Then the new description for the commercial industrial, we raised that because we can never get into a lot of buildings. So it would, the new square footage would raise that price up. The second one is the number of residential units. Due to the fact that many of the developers are building laterally as opposed to high rises, it takes more time for an inspector to go and do an inspection, and therefore we raise the prices of those.
Anything else, Mary?
I'm still here.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, ma'am, that's.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mary. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sean?
Okay, on to our next first reading ordinance, item 3.5, City Ordinance 21-08 0 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, State of New Jersey, authorizing the transfer of certain city-owned real property identified on the tax map of the City of Jersey City as Block 21901.01, lots 1, 4, 6, 8, and 9, and Block 21901, Lot 4, to the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency.
Okay. Someone's here?
I'm here.
Okay, could you explain it? Just go through it. If we have any questions, we'll ask.
Thank you, Council President, Council members. Joe Bauman here. This ordinance is a companion with the proposed ordinance authorizing the subsidy. It relates to the Bayfront properties. You'll recall it's been referenced by Councilman Lavarro that is our mixed income project that began several years ago when we acquired the property at the city level and began the process of developing the property for redevelopment. I think you'll also recall that the wisdom and desire behind the administration of the council was to maximize the amount of affordable and workforce housing on that property. And in order to do so, we wanted to provide developable parcels, meaning that the city was going to take charge of doing the infrastructure improvements, acquiring the land, and negotiating with redevelopers to acquire it, and with the goal of turning the property to the redeveloper when they're ready to build. That has a lot of benefits. It saves the carry costs. It saves the equity that the developer has to put in. It makes the property more valuable and less costly to the developer. And through that process, we began the process of looking for developers. We're in negotiation. We went through a competitive process. We're in the midst of the negotiation, which we hope to wrap up in the next month or two, for the sale of the first parcels in Bayfront. At the same time, during that process, the city's financial team, I think, identified that if we were to move the debt and land over to the redevelopment agency, it would be beneficial to the project, the city, and the ultimate occupants, everybody involved, because the agency under local redevelopment housing law has much more flexibility than the city does in terms of how it borrows funds. So the city generally borrows money under the local bond law. They issue notes, either issue bonds or notes. They roll over the notes every year. And that process, if they do go to bonds, there's debt service schedules that they have to comply with, a bunch of different constraints that don't otherwise apply to the agency, and frankly are cumbersome in a project as complex as this, where we're trying to ultimately match up land sale proceeds with the pay down of principal on bonds, and do it without having to roll over the notes every year and incur those expenses. So the city's financial team recommended, I think, to the city that they consider moving the debt to the agency. That's done by the agency issue bonds and then refinancing the city's debt, paying off the city debt, and now it becomes debt of the agency. It's the same thing that we're talking about for Hudson County Community College, the same thing we did for Passlide. So we have two models. Passlide clearly was successful in that endeavor. And also with the transfer of the debt, would make sense to transfer the land, because as the land gets sold by the agency, it'll be used to pay down principal over time, with the overall goal of having this entire effort to be not become a taxpayer obligation in the long haul, using land proceeds to pay down debt over time.
Any questions?
Sure. This is Councilman Lavarro.
Mm-hmm.
So this answers my questions in relation to the second reading ordinance, because I'd asked about the purchase and sale agreement and the redeveloper agreement and other things. So, and I received a response from the JCRA executive director that there is in fact not a redevelopment agreement in place. At this point, it's still under negotiation. And so it couldn't be shared with me because it hasn't been consummated. Is that accurate, Joe?
Yeah, the redevelopment agreement, the purchase and sale agreement are still in negotiation. The financial agreement as well, that will be coming back to you, of course, if if a pilot's required, we'd have to come back with a financial agreement. That'll remain with the city council. All those agreements are still in negotiations.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it begs the question for me is that, I mean, we literally broke ground last July, I think it was, of 2020. And I don't know, in my experience, and granted, I'm not a lifer, although I've had now 10 years on the council, that's coming to an end, but I've not had the experience of having a groundbreaking without kind of a redevelopment agreement in place or designating a redeveloper, I guess. Or do we have a designation here? Is that...
We do. We do have conditional designations, funding agreements in place. I think the groundbreaking was the culmination of the competitive process where we identified 2 development teams to sell the first 4 parcels, to each. So I think that was the groundbreaking. In the meantime, the infrastructure has been ongoing continuously. The bulkhead work has been undertaken. The surcharging is going on. The MUA is out for. We're designing the water, wastewater, stormwater systems, the roads that have to come into phase 1. The park's is being designed. So there's a ton of work going on. It's all in the design and infrastructure stage, with the goal of having it ready to sell to the developers that we're negotiating the agreements that I expect will be finalized first quarter 2022.
And just, if I can jump in for a quick second, Councilman LaVaro, the announcement last year was just the announcement of the designation. It wasn't a quote unquote groundbreaking, even though it was at the site. Typically we do the groundbreakings at the site. It was just for the designation of the developers, because they really can't do a groundbreaking until the city finishes the infrastructure, some of the stuff that Joe just mentioned.
Okay, I swore it was maybe I'll have to. My memory. I'm getting old, so maybe my memory is not all that great anymore. But I swore it was.
I mean, we didn't have any shovels or anything like that, like we typically do. But no, I understand, because it was at the site. Typically, when we're at the site, it is considered the groundbreaking. I mean, if you want to consider we broke the ground on starting the infrastructure, then yeah, we did break ground technically, but not the developer. That was our groundbreaking.
So bringing us back to this particular ordinance and the transference of the property from the city to the JCRA. So is there language in this agreement or this ordinance that when the land is sold, that with the revenue itself, what will happen with that revenue as it pertains to this transference of this ordinance?
It goes to pay off the debt service on the bonds. There's a waterfall, I think, in the subsidy that Jim Fearon had crafted on your behalf that identifies how the money gets expended. But it's first to continue to pay off the debt service, and then the cost of the project too.
And it's the debt service under the JCRA.
Yeah, because now the city will no longer have, this debt will now no longer be on the city's books. So it comes off your books. Becomes a contingent liability instead of a direct liability.
Okay. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, Sean.
Okay, our next ordinance is item 3.6, City Ordinance 21-081 is an ordinance authorizing the sale of an easement to the New Jersey Transit Corporation affecting real property owned by the city of Jersey City in Block 287, Lot 5 in the town of Kearney, New Jersey, for the purposes of facilitating New Jersey Transit's Portal Bridge project.
All right, so, I'll be here, Council President. Thank you. So the title kind of explains it here. Obviously, the state NJ Transit is reconstructing the Portal Bridge. They were looking to acquire an aerial easement over a piece of property that is owned by Jersey City, but is within the borders of Kearney. It's related to an MUA pipeline access area. The sale to the city, it's a transfer of $45,000, and we would be conveying an aerial easement to NJ Transit for the purpose of this bridge. Obviously, it's a permanent easement, at least until the this bridge is removed in the decades or century to come, but nevertheless, this is the proposal here.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, our last first reading ordinance, item 3.7, City Ordinance 21-082, is an ordinance authorizing the City of Jersey City to sell property located at 65 Commercial Street, 20 Commercial Street, and 2 Commercial Street, Jersey City, to the Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority.
Thank you, Sean. Council, this is just to update the existing ordinance that we had in the books for these exact parcels. What we're doing here is just including some additional language here. We included a whereas clause that the property shall be subject for the use of the JCMUA facility, and then as well as additional use for public purpose. This is just to give us a little bit more leeway in the design and allows us to include other elements for some space that we may have on those parcels for open space, or some of those pieces are adjacent to the greenway. So just including that additional language allows us a little bit more broad perspective when we're taking a look at design plans. There's no material changes on the parcels, the agreement, the price, nothing changes except for including that additional language and mandating that it's for the continuation of public use.
Any questions?
So I have to ask whenever the MUA comes up, when are the residents of Jersey City going to see their water tax refund?
Credit.
Trash collection credit, yeah.
Councilman, they are in the process of concluding, and I believe they will be presenting their finding, the program that they were running to review all the records, and we'll definitely be able to see if there is a credit due, whether it be a refund or a voting credit. But they have updated us that they've concluded that, and they're going to be presenting soon.
I also have
Does that
past due balance because we were told not to pay it, and it's you know, it's on my Suez bill that it's a past due balance.
Yeah, so the with regard to that, Councilman, residents should pay their water bill, but the line item for the solid waste, we said that it's not to be remitted now until there's a further update.
Okay, just because it got carried over, the solid waste fee got carried over into the next bill, and it's showing as past due now.
Sure, and we're not going to hold any lien against that line item.
So does that mean, as they come to a conclusion here, that they're going to conclude in favor of the residents in terms of a credit, or is it, what does that mean exactly?
I mean, Councilman, I defer to them to present. I do know that they have two options, whether it be a refund, if there is a refund mandated, or a forwarding credit. You know, obviously that they overpaid, it would be tagged on to as a credit to their forwarding bill for the next quarter.
So my I would just urge the council that until they kind of come to a resolution on this and give us an affirmative response, I don't think we should be advancing anything with the MUA until they kind of get right on this issue. There's a lot of residents out there who've been negatively impacted. As Councilman Saleh pointed out, residents were told not to pay the trash collection fee. And I've heard from residents, as I'm sure all of you have, that they followed those instructions and they're seeing their bills come in saying that they're delinquent, and they're worried and concerned about potential liens. And we can tell them till the cows come home that there's not going to be a lien out there, but until they see something definitively, they're going to be concerned, and rightfully so, that there's going to be potential lien against their home, fees and charges and interest for late payments. And so I think we should use our authority here to be able to exercise some influence on folks to say, you take care of the issues that we address the issues that, and I'm not saying one way or the other. I don't know legally what they have to do here around this, but they need to come to resolution so that the ratepayers of Jersey City can have some certainty and eliminate the uncertainty in their lives around this. I yield my time.
Anyone else? Okay, Sean. Thank you.
Ready?
Thanks, John.
Okay. Before we move on to the second reading ordinances, I just want to state for the record that this is the last meeting that we'll be having any first reading ordinances placed on the agendas for the rest of the year, due to the fact that the council's term will be ending December 31st, 2021. We do not put any first reading ordinances on the December 15th meeting. So I just wanted to state that for the record and to let everybody know. If there are any ordinances from sitting council members that have been reelected and it's not on this agenda, perhaps you can try to place it on the next regular scheduled meeting in January. With that being said, we're going to move on to our second reading ordinances. First ordinance is item 4.1. City Ordinance 21-073 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, providing for a special emergency appropriation of $10 million, providing for the payment of contractually required severance liabilities resulting from the layoff or retirement of employees. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 21-074 is an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, authorizing the execution and delivery of subsidy agreement with the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency to secure the payment of the principal and interest on up to $169,810,000 bonds and/or project notes issued by said agency in connection with the implementation of the Bayfront redevelopment project. Council members, just so we're aware, bond counsel is on here to make sure I'm stating this correctly for the record. We do have to go for the local finance board for this. So we're going to hold a public hearing on this ordinance at next week's meeting, but in order to adopt it, we need the local finance board's approval. So we're going to hold off the adoption until the December 15th meeting.
Okay.
Bond counsel, can you confirm, or Joe, if you want to confirm that?
That's correct.
And I was here. I'm sorry, I had you on mute. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding this ordinance? Okay, thank you both very much. On our last second reading ordinance, which is item 4.3, City Ordinance 21-075, is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled of the Jersey City Code, designating reserved parking space at various locations throughout the city. Any questions or comments on that ordinance? Hearing none. Moving on, we will have a special improvement district public hearing on the 2021-2022 McGinley Square Special Improvement District Assessment Roll and Budget. I did not invite them to this meeting. We did grill them at the meeting they were invited to, and we made sure that they corrected their assessment roll and budget, so now we are good to go and move forward with the public hearing and assessment roll on the budget and final consideration of adoption of both. We have our request for a hearing. The first speaker we have is Yvonne Bolser. And then we move on to petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.13. Any questions or comments? And we have our officer communications, items 7.1 through 7.2. Any questions or comments? And we have a board of directors, which are none. And then we have our payment of claims, the meeting claims list. And then we move on to our resolutions. Council President,
Yes.
you had mentioned to me that we do have a speaker on item 10.23, 10.33, the last
Yes.
resolution. Would you like to defer to that at this point?
Yes, please, Sean, defer to 10.33.
Okay, so 10.33, resolution 21-821 is a resolution to support Senate Bill number 4021 and the inclusion of AAPI studies in New Jersey public school curriculum. I apologize. If you can identify yourself for the record, please.
Dr. Kanye Langevin.
Okay, doctor, you may, you have the floor.
Sean, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Council President, may I make some introductions here?
Sure.
Set the context. So council members, this resolution, thank you, Council President, for deferring to this. Our speaker is not able to stay till the very end, so I appreciate you taking the time to allow her to speak earlier in this meeting. This resolution is a resolution that was born out of the Asian hate crimes that emerged during COVID, and then earlier this year, as you know, we had a Stop Asian Hate Crime rally on the steps of City Hall. One of the things that a coalition of Jersey City residents came together around called the Jersey City AAPI, which is Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition. Among the recommendations was to update or to include in our educational curriculums Asian American history, so as to make the Asian American communities and history better known throughout the nation and throughout our region and our area, and to better understand the contributions that Asian Americans make to Jersey City and to American life, so as to combat some of the hate and the misunderstandings and misinformation that's out there. Dr. Kanye Langevin is the head of a group called Make Us Visible New Jersey, and she's heading that movement here in New Jersey, and has been moving to get some legislation established in the state legislature that would require the Department of Education to have curriculums throughout the state of New Jersey to include Asian American history as part of the curriculum in K through 12 education. Folks who may be familiar with kind of the Amistad legislation that was put out some time ago that accomplished similar goals of including African American history into New Jersey curriculums. It's similar types of goals and aspirations there. And so without further ado, I want to introduce thank her for coming out to speak, Dr. Kanye Langevin. Dr. Langevin?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm part of Make Us Visible New Jersey, as Councilman Navarro said, and we're a coalition of students, parents, educators, and community members working for the inclusion of AAPI studies in New Jersey K-12 education. And we're really grateful to the Jersey City AAPI Coalition and Councilman Navarro and 62 other organizations who've allied with us in this cause. And we're very grateful to Senator Gopal for introducing S4021 and Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee for introducing A6100. We're also grateful to the 15 senators and 22 assembly members who have agreed to co-sponsor this bill. And we wanted to let you know that S4021 was unanimously passed by the Senate Education Committee. We feel this bipartisan bill is urgently needed to protect children and the Asian American community. Hate and bias incidents against Asian Americans in New Jersey have skyrocketed by over 80% during the pandemic, and almost 25% of all reported bias incidents occurred in the K-12 schools, more than in any other type of location. And given that bias incidents often go unreported, these numbers likely represent only a small fraction of the incidents involving New Jersey's young people. Simply put, this law will save lives, prevent bullying, and improve mental health. In passing this legislation will demonstrate New Jersey's commitment to prioritizing the protection of the more than 1 million Asian American and Pacific Islanders in New Jersey from racism and violence. Moreover, for the over 144,000 AAPI K-12 students in New Jersey, an inclusive curriculum will ensure that they see themselves, improve mental health, prevent bullying, and most importantly, know that they too matter. Therefore, this bill will also improve civic and political engagement in the AAPI community, the fastest growing voting demographic in New Jersey. We circulated an open letter which received over 1,230 signatures from New Jersey residents, and we're also aware of successful efforts to include AAPI curriculum in other states, including Illinois, which recently became the first state to mandate Asian American history curriculum in public schools. Additionally, Make Us Visible New Jersey has met with the New Jersey Department of Education, New Jersey Division of Civil Rights, the NJEA, and the Governor's Office, and they also support our work. We're looking for your support as well. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Does anyone have questions about the resolution and the state legislation itself? Okay, if none, then thank you all for your time, your listening on this. And thank you, Dr. Kanye Langevin.
Thank you, Councilman Navarro.
Okay. Going back to our regular scheduled programming on Resolution 10.1, Resolution 21-789 is a resolution providing for the financing of a special emergency appropriation of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey by the issuance of special emergency notes for the city. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Okay, item 10.2, Resolution 21-790 is a resolution authorizing the insertion of special items of revenues and appropriations in calendar year 2021 municipal budget pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-87. Any questions or comments? Okay, item 10.3, City Resolution 21-791 is a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the circulation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement in connection with the sale of the city's special emergency notes and approving a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to said notes of the city and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connections therewith. Any questions or comments on this resolution?
Okay, can I just confirm both Resolution 10.1 and 10.3 are in reference to Ordinance 4.1? Is that correct?
Just going through the, yes, this is Jim Huron, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And bond counsel, Jim, it's okay to approve the resolutions at the next meeting, correct? I mean, at the next week's meeting.
Yes, because of item 10.6, which is coming up.
Okay. Very good. All righty. So next is any other questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to continue without asking. All right. Item 10.4, Resolution 21-792 is a resolution to cancel outstanding stale checks. Item 10.5, Resolution 21-793 is a resolution authorizing calendar year 2021 appropriation transfers.
Can someone explain some of the adjustments here and Particularly the more sizable ones, I should say, maybe over 200,000 or more.
Councilman, I could provide any clarity you need. I'll go through the first few. So just the transfer from column, you'll see transferring approximately 7.1 million to other accounts to cover some potential year-end over expenditures, mostly due to salary wages. We had, as you all know, the union settlements, which we paid out for the last 3 years, and also some state of emergency overtime pay that we are obligated to pay based on the current bargaining agreements. So start from the top, you'll see engineering is a large amount that we're transferring from salary and wages. This is funding that we put in the budget for our direct hire program for all of our city hall projects. We eventually bonded for those costs and were able to charge that labor to capital and free up the money in our current fund. Salary adjustment account is something we budget for every year for current year union contracts. Since we finally settled, we had that $1 million there to transfer over to throughout multiple departments. Tax overpayments is something we budget every year. We usually mirror the prior year. Last year we paid out a little bit more than we needed to this year, so there was some funding available there. Enrichment salary and wages. This is some reserves from our part-time and seasonal budgets that we didn't hire for, or some summer programs that may have not hired as many people as we anticipated. Fire salary wages, a big chunk of that is overtime unused. OSHA OE, that is for replacement of some fire turnout gear. We've got our final invoice for the year, so there was money left there. Recycling, that is funding from some contracts which we didn't get to that maximum amount that we usually award. Automotive salary wages, just we had some vacancies that we didn't fill there. Internal audit, same deal. We had 3 or 4 vacancies we haven't filled yet. And fire OE, 200,000. We budgeted for some vehicle leases, and turns out they won't be due now until January 2022. So we had money there. And automotive OE is reserve funding we had for vehicle maintenance, since we purchased some new vehicles through capital this year, and last year we had less repairs and things of that nature. So those are everything over 200 that we're transferring from. On the other side of the resolution, where we're transferring money to, the first line item there is communications and technology salary and wages. This was to keep our staffing at an adequate level, as well as cover some overtime expenditures, same for police. We're still reconciling police overtime with some FEMA claims, but until we actually receive those dollars from FEMA, we just have to cover that before the end of the year, so we don't have any deferred charge in the following year budget. Insurance for workers' comp claims, things of that nature. I could get more detail from Matt Hogan if you need. Sanitation, parking enforcement, municipal court, recycling. Like I said, these all due to mostly contract settlements and overtime, but sanitation specifically is we had to kind of replenish that reserve for any year-end snowstorms. So not only did we have to cover what we spent to date, we had to make sure there was a little cushion there for the end of the year. And everything else below that is under 200,000.
Okay. All right, Sean. Guess that's it.
Can I ask, Council President?
Sure.
So you mentioned contractual settlements, or contractual increases. What the traffic guards, I understand, are still out of contract. Is that accurate?
I believe that I'll defer to the BA, but I believe they're under 246. I'm not sure if they have a separate agreement outside of our regular civilians. Councilman, the administration and the union met roughly 2 weeks ago and finalized an agreement. They did not realize their increase yet. It'll most likely be in the next pay period. I'll verify with payroll.
But they may have some back pay coming to them too over there. And so you're taking money out of salary adjustment, which if I understood correctly, was contractual stuff, right? So is that accurate? The salary adjustments?
Yep, that's correct, Councilman.
So if you're going to ratify that, is that going to fall into the next budget cycle with the salary adjustments?
So we'll have enough in that account to cover it because of the amount and the absence of guards for a period of time during the year. So we'll have enough to cover the overages on that. And then next year it'll be fully budgeted in the line item for public safety.
Okay. Can you just speak more to the communications technology? Is that, which department is that? Is that under police?
That's safety, Councilman.
Public safety?
Those are 911 dispatchers.
And is that, can I get the budget or the expenditures for that division? And this is all overtime. A lot of this is overtime?
No, it's both overtime and full-time salary and wages. Like I said, we have an issue this year where, some portion of the employees go out on leave and, we can't really wait for them to come back since the operation is essential, that we have to hire to replace them either in the interim or long term. So it's a partial over expenditure in full-time staffing and overtime.
And the COVID dollars don't cover this. I know they were hard hit by, they lost a lot of lives, I think, in that department, if memory serves me. Would that not cover some of the?
We have a claim pending right now with FEMA for some of these expenses, but like I said, until we actually realize those dollars, we have to cover it with our current fund operations.
And how about the police overtime, the police increase?
Same there as well.
You're also looking to cover this by the FEMA?
Yep, FEMA, and we already we attributed some of our American Rescue Plan money in the budget this year, which I outlined during the budget amendment. So there's additional dollars out there to receive from FEMA.
What's the deal with the parking enforcement? Because I know that they don't enforce on Sundays, or they're very short, and they don't. I don't see any coverage there. How is it $450,000 is going to parking enforcement when
a big bulk of parking enforcement towards the end of this year was the state of emergencies, two state emergencies that we had. I believe, I don't know if both went through the weekend, but we do have staff on schedule that we had to pay out.
But they didn't during the state of emergencies. Don't we say that parking is suspended?
Every employee is still entitled to it if there's even in the tax office, anyone scheduled.
Yeah.
Councilman, we're looking to work with the unions on that. We do have something outlined. Also, as you mentioned, Sundays, I believe it's they're entitled to double time every Sunday. So that's something with the unions as well to try to negotiate some of that without getting into detail publicly.
Okay. Definitely want to talk about that
offline. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sean.
Item 10.6, Resolution 21-794 is a resolution directing that ordinance number 21-073 of the City of Jersey City take effect immediately. Item 10.7, City Resolution 21-795 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City accepting the best practices inventory questionnaire. Item 10.8, Resolution 21-796 is a resolution to cancel the tax sale certificate number 2021-0483 sold in error and refund the purchase refunds to Tristone Capital Assets LLC. 10.9, Resolution 21-797 is a resolution to cancel tax sale certificate 2020-0084 sold in error and refund the purchase funds to TLOA of New Jersey LLC. Item 10.10, Resolution 21-798 is a resolution authorizing the replacement of a lost third-party tax sale certificate 2013-1602 Hudson Ventures LLC.
How does a tax sale certificate get sold in error, or how does it get lost in error? Or can someone explain that to me? I'm just,
Is that on the line? Anybody?
Councilman, I could discuss it briefly.
Okay.
If there's any questions. So the lost tax certificate usually occurs during the process of a transfer or a sale of property. Sometimes they need new documentation for their company. And a sale in error could be that they made a late payment prior to the tax sale, and we didn't recognize the late payment before the sale went on. So we issued a temporary sale of that parcel, but there actually wasn't a delinquency on it, so we rebuke it. It is on though, I just noticed, so if there's any additional commentary, Mr. Tolosa, if you have to provide.
Well, the possibility also is that you have a judgment that came in after it was sold. Say a certain quarter is covered by the judgment, so technically what you sold then is in error because of the reduction in the judgment.
okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, next, item 10.11, Resolution 21-799 is a resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayments for property tax accounts. Item 10.12, Resolution 21-800 is a resolution authorizing the settlement of assessment appeals filed before the Tax Court of New Jersey.
John, I'm reminded my the last council meeting, I'd asked for information about people's delinquent, who were delinquent with their third quarter and fourth quarter payments now that the deadlines have elapsed and the grace period as well. Can I get a?
Yeah, you're right, Councilman. I'll make sure that we have that to you by close of business tomorrow.
Great.
Apologize. We had to request it through the vendor and it took a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, item 10.13, Resolution 21-801 is the resolution honoring the memory of Patricia Dean Holiday Haley. Item 10.14, Resolution 21-802 is a resolution commemorating the 42nd Annual Thanksgiving Football Classic. Item 10.15, Resolution 21-803 is a resolution amending the appointment of Karen DeSoto as a full-time judge of the Jersey City Municipal Court. Council members, this resolution is just correcting the term. We had the incorrect term on her original appointment letter, making her a full-time judge. So this is just correcting her term. Item 10.16, Resolution 21-804 is a resolution adopting and ratifying the 2021-2022 budget of the McGinley Square Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. And the companion resolution, item 10.17, Resolution 21-805 is a resolution accepting the assessment role of the McGinley Square Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Next is item 10.18, Resolution 21-806 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply for and accept the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry Program. Item 10.19, Resolution 21-807 is a resolution of the City of Jersey City Municipal Council authorizing a second amendment to the cooperation agreement with the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency regarding Berry Lane Park.
So what's the amendment here?
Joe Bauman here. I could speak to that if you like.
Sure.
So the cooperation agreement with the JCRA provided for the transfer of Berry Lane Park upon the completion of all the remediation. The remediation has been completed, but there's paperwork that takes some time. So the agency would like to transfer the property to the city sooner than the completion of the paperwork. So the cooperation agreement allows for the immediate transfer of the property, and the agency will retain responsibility to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed as it relates to that project.
Alrighty. Item 10.20, Resolution 21-808 is a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to sell various motor vehicles at public auction. Item 10.21, Resolution 21-809 is a resolution authorizing an award of a contract to Winter Ford for the purchase and delivery of various 2022 Ford pickup trucks on the New Jersey State contract for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive. Item 10.22, Resolution 21-810 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to F Tire Corporation for the purchase and delivery of various tires under state contract for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive Maintenance. Item 10.23, Resolution 21-811 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Global Equipment Company for the purchase and delivery of black steel mesh outdoor trash cans for the Department of Public Works Division of Sanitation. Item 10.24, Resolution 21-812 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of an open-ended contract with Continental Hardware to provide hardware supplies for the Department of Public Works Division of Building and Street Maintenance. Item 10.25.
Can I chime in here? I'm sorry. So Continental Hardware, this was, is this contract just general hardware supplies for the city? I thought in the past we had a local vendor that we worked with, being Duncan Hardware.
Yeah, Councilman, we still have an agreement with Duncan Hardware. This is to provide for some of the projects that the labor unions are working on. Duncan doesn't have accessibility to some of the larger infrastructure items that we need, bulk pipe and various other items. So we're going to continue to go to Duncan for all of our DPW local needs, and we'll use this as a as an additional hardware facility for larger purchases or rush deliveries.
Okay.
Okay. Item 10.25 is a resolution, Resolution 21-813 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to TK Elevator Corporation for the purchase of gold elevator service maintenance agreement for elevator service throughout the city of Jersey City through the National Cooperative Purchasing Agreement number 02-43 for the Department of Public Works Division of Building and Street Maintenance. Item 10.26, Resolution 21-814 is a resolution authorizing the award of a professional service contract to Tectonic Engineering and Surveying Consultants, PC, in connection with the Environmental Consulting Services Phase 2 for Reservoir Number 3, LSRP Services, Project Number 2021-050 for the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture. Item 10.27, Resolution 21-815 is a resolution authorizing the award of a professional service contract to Easton Architects in connection with the design, construction documents, and construction administration services for the Reservoir Number 3 Historic Wall Assessment and Repairs, Project Number 2021-046 for the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture. Item 10.28, Resolution 21-816 is a resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Colliers Engineering and Design, Mazer Consulting PA for construction, engineering, management and inspection services for Johnston Avenue Road Improvements, project number 17-014-E for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering, Traffic and Transportation. Item 10.29, Resolution 21-817 is a resolution supplementing the manual of loading zone designations of the City of Jersey City, designating a loading zone in front of 154 Danforth Avenue, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Item 10.30, Resolution 21-818 is a resolution supplementing the manual loading zone designations of the City of Jersey City, designating a loading zone on Bennett Street from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. daily. Item 10.31, Resolution 21-819 is a resolution introducing, the Arts and Cultural Trust Fund Committee's policy and procedures to be approved by the City Council in accordance with Ordinance number 21-030. And item 10.32, Resolution 21-820 is a resolution recognizing Dr. Youngage Byam Mai for her steadfast support and advocacy for human rights and refugees. If I mispronounced the name, I apologize. Item 10.33, we touched on earlier. And that is
Can I
all
just,
I got.
sorry, before you end there,
Sure.
Mr. President, just on 10.33, an omission on my part, my apologies. And it should be written into the resolution. Councilman Solomon and Councilman Bogiano are co-sponsors on that resolution, and I invite any members of the City Council, if they want to co-sponsor the resolution on 10.33, urging the Senate to adopt Senate Bill 4021, which is again would require the inclusion of Asian American history within education curriculums through K through 12. I invite you to add yourself as co-sponsor. And Council President, one thing, we'll be updating that resolution. The final whereas, final now therefore be it resolved, will include a different line that'll specifically urge Senate President Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Coughlin and the education committees to adopt and pass the legislation and bring it to the floor for a vote. And that's what it's going to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say something that the Asian American community is very important to Jersey City and very good for Jersey City.
Councilman Navarro, if you can just provide me with that new therefore be it resolved clause, I'll make sure that gets updated because I don't know if you guys have that authority to go in there and.
Sure, we'll get that to you.
Excellent. All right. With that being said, may I have a motion to adjourn at 6:03 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera. May I have a second? Second by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to adjourn at 6:03 p.m., all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
I have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
We are
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We are out of here at 6:03 p.m. Thank you so much, Council President, members of the Municipal Council, all the professional staffs, the directors, division directors that showed up and presented today, and all the outside presenters. Thank you so much for your patience and cooperation. And again, very, very happy Thanksgiving to everybody, members of the public that were watching and everybody who's here. Very thankful, very grateful for serving you as city clerk, and very thankful and grateful for all of our co-workers and everybody who's responsible for making these meetings happen. Very grateful for you guys. And with that being said, remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Stay safe out there. Have a safe and very thankful Thanksgiving. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.